Wednesday we go live. We talk about the elements, right? When anybody ever says hip hop these days, by default, they run with the genre of music and forget graph, b-boying, all that, right? So that's our approach, right? We save the hip hop culture, carrying the culture, just showing love to the elements. And this is a new segment where we try to, bring people on and pick their brain, right? So you were obviously a great one to get on. So we'll jump right on. This is episode 24 of the After Party with Profo 1. Carry the culture in the house. And let's get right into it, brother. I appreciate you coming on.
Man. Yeah, man. Just go ahead, man. I'm open book. You know what I mean? Like I said, within the breaking community, I talk a lot, but this is the first time like I had other elements and, just like appreciators of hip hop, period, because just like in every genre, every element of hip hop, it's done this to the core, right? We've become our own subculture where a lot of the even B-boys and B-girls don't even really listen to hip hop at this point. That's just the real reality.
Speak on it. I mean, that's just a fact. Yeah, keep going. I'm so excited to hear you say that. Let's go there because we've seen how it becomes like 4 individual lanes, if you will.
I mean, it's just been a thing, like back when I was growing up, like I'm 47, right? So the whole thing is like came before the competition culture in breaking. So it was very different. And competition started, and this is me as a researcher of breaking. The first official competitions were from what I know in America, was one urban street style thrown by Alex Aquino, who ran the ITF, and he was one of the original West Coast Zulu members, and he was a promoter, and he threw the first one was an organized battle where it wasn't just showcases, it was kind of like head-to-head, what you see today.
Yeah.
In Northern California, it was called Best of the Best, and it happened at Hank Lopez Hall, and that was around 94, 95. And then from that, the biggest one that we know that started the trend in America was actually Radiotron, thrown by Little Caesar. You know what I mean? And that was like 95. After that, Air Force. After that, it totally changed the trajectory of what breaking was, because it started becoming an organized, I don't like to say sport, but in a way it became that. So right now, to modern times, it's funny because you have 21-year-olds talking about like, back in the day. I'm like, back in the day, you grew up in this. You don't know anything before. You didn't know what a jam is. We say jams. A jam for us, and I see D Styles is on there, a jam for me when I was 16 was Shortcut and Cuba spinning at the jam. And it was a club for kids. Like, if we were too young to go to the club, we would go to these things, and they only played like, and we weren't even exposed to breaks, ultimate breaks and beats. We were dancing to like freestyle and electro, right? Like we were dancing to Debbie Deb, we were dancing to Planet Rock. We didn't know any better. This is before Summit 95, 96, before, they really pushed Rocksteady pushed the campaign. And then we started really understanding what was being played. So back then they played that for like 30 minutes. And then they played Jodeci in the end of the night. Like, that's what it was. Like, wow. I'm the last that's still in the scene that still, like, competes from that generation. Like, there's other guys, but I still compete. Right. Like, I go up against, like, 16-year-olds, and it's like, it's not fun, right? I mean, I'm going to get smoked. That's just the rule of it. But if I can maintain, like, that's the gratefulness of the competition scene, though, is that now we don't know the shelf life yet of a B-boy. Before, the shelf life was 18, right? Because then after that, you have to get a job. You have to get, you have to go to school. Then it started becoming like 25. And then eventually, like, the more and more we go, and this is one thing with the OGs, the oldest guy out there right now that's competing is actually Skilroy from Hawaii, who was Rocksteady, and he's 56. And
what?
Yeah, he just got featured on Stance. He got to the finals of a battle in Hawaii with top tier people around the world, and he got to the finals, and he's 56.
Wow.
So,
Shout out to Skillroy. Yeah, so he's the one we're like, okay, because like if we train like fighters, if we train like MMA guys, but the difference is we don't get CTE from getting punched in the face. But if we train that hard, we don't. Who knows what the shelf life is? Because everyone that's kind of like 50, you know, they felt like they did everything. This is no diss to Kenny or Easy Rock or Legs or whoever, but they felt like they did everything. So what else did I have to prove? Yet the new elders coming in, such as myself, I'm like, man, there's certain moves I don't have yet. Why don't I try it out? Why not at this point? You know what I mean? And that's that's the dope thing about competition, is that we're starting to push the boundaries of how long can we do this,
I'm so glad you spoke on the era before competitions, because I'll be 47 in 2 months. And
all right. I think we're all the same age.
We're waking up with shit that we didn't know we had hurting. So I understand, right? So, and I came into this as a B-boy, and so I just appreciated you sharing about that, because I've transitioned to kind of like more freestyle hip hop dance.
Right.
And so I've been in one competition, and I don't like competitions because I just like to dance. And
right.
any battles that I had were over beef, or like they were real beef.
Yeah.
I'll fuck you up. Like, all right, it wasn't like somebody scoring shit and stuff like that. So my question for you though is, talk about the judging, because I've seen a lot of
here we go.
I've seen
you knew it was coming.
And I watch battles and stuff just to kind of stay in the loop and stuff. And I'm like, come on. And I've been to battles where I'm like, are you kidding me? You gave it to this guy because that's your man. So and I think to me that's really prevalent in the battles, and that's one thing I think I hate. Can you speak on that? Is that true? Like, what's the deal with the judging?
Well, right now they're actually, because now it's in the Olympics, there's a vying groups of people that are trying to come up with a objective system, and it's kind of hard because now the values have changed too. The new kids that are coming up under competition, they look at breaking totally different from the guy even 15 years ago who started. So the thing is, like it's like the radio now. Whoever's the most popular, that's what a B-boy or B-girl is going to look like. That's just the truth of what it is, But there is another, and there's another aspect of, there's kids that are holding into the culture, yet it's funny because, like I said, they're talking like, yeah, I cipher this and that. It's like, do you know even where that word comes from? They're like, huh, what do you mean? Like, so it's this thing. And the best way I could put it, right, as far as competition, it's becoming more fair, you know what I mean? But the problem is, like, the same judges are getting hired because they're the only ones that kind of have an objective outlook. They tend to not want to be part of the politics. They just like breaking, and they can explain themselves. You know how it was back in the day? Oh, why'd you win? I just like the color of your shoes, kid. Like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, now.
I like what you're rocking. I know you're rocking the.
Yeah, whatever. But now there's a criteria. Now there's a certain criteria that everyone's looking at. There's a basic criteria, which is execution. So it's not even a stylistic thing. It's just, if the moves that I intend I could execute, you're probably going to edge out the other person. And this doesn't have to matter. This doesn't matter if you have a foundation of style and dance. You could just do athletic type movements. And this is where everyone our age goes, what do you mean that's not dancing? What do you mean there's no flavor in it? What do you mean there's no, and but here's my thing. Here's my debate. And I'm one of the olders that are for the Olympics. I'm actually for the next break exploitation era. I'm ready for it. This is the best way. I'm glad that the listeners are there. The best way to put it is that now it's vert and street skating. Understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Tony Hawk is the king, but is anyone really trying to dress like Tony Hawk? But Stevie Williams owns his own company. He never entered a competition. And he has style. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, there might be b-boys that can do the vert that have these street style element. I mean, this happened in skating. Christian Hosoi versus Tony Hawk. They all called Tony Hawk a robot that just did tricks. Christian Hosoi would do the vert, but he had a certain style. He had a certain look. Girls liked him, all this and that. But Tony Hawk's, I don't care. I just do tricks. And I got clowned for it. So that's why I look at everyone in the big competitions. They're the new Tony Hawks. But we have to, just like anything else, the media has to push the cypher kids that just want to get down and have fun. And at the same time, who sells more product? It's the street skaters. They control fashion. And they never entered the competition. What do you think Supreme is? What do you think, World Industries, when they first started with Rodney Mullen and Steve Roku first started World Industries, they laughed at them because you don't have any vert guys? You guys aren't going to make it. Not knowing that most of the kids are going to know. There's a lot of kids. If we go down the street and ask how many of them are going to do the vert, barely. But they're going to be grinding off the sidewalk.
Of course.
So that's where I feel like media, so that's the whole thing. We do need the vert because when Tony Hawk did that 900, everyone else came up in 8. The thing is we just have to, as much as the competition's getting covered, because at this point, we don't have to rely on a competition. You could, there's people on TikTok that do nothing and have millions of followers and millions of views. If we could treat the same thing in breaking, where your lifestyle and you control fashion and the look and the cool, who needs a competition?
Wow. And
that's my job. That's where I feel like I'm stepping in. And that's why I do, when you see my social media, I'm putting on kids that might never be like that vert dude. He might never be in the Olympics, but that guy got an ill style. The best way to put it is shout out to Stance and B-Boy Network on Instagram. Joe Rogan always shouts out Stance, but they could be Skateboarder Magazine. I'll be Thrasher then. You know what I'm saying? I'll cover the underground kids. I'll be the tastemaker. You know what I mean? I don't mind.
Great perspective on it. I mean,
yeah, I do. I study a lot because I love this art, man. And and this is the first time, the guys older us, they were hood dudes, but the guys that are more my age, like the Cross Ones, Flow Master, Wicked, all these guys are my age, and we care about this culture, and we don't have so much of a toxic behavior. We come from it an educator type of perspective, so it's easiest for us to deal with business. You know what I'm saying? Instead of yo, kid, that shit's whack. But we don't ever explain why. You know what I mean? We have to explain these things. And the other thing is, and so, I joined competition not to win. It's just I'm big about not complaining and being about it. If I could say, oh, the competitions are whack, these kids can't dance, this and that, well, I'm there. So that means it's alive because I'm doing it. You know what I mean? I don't have any right to complain.
Right.
If I'm doing it.
If you're doing it.
Yeah.
To kind of piggyback off that, straying away a little bit.
Yeah.
Go
for it.
You've gone on record to say, competitions, right? So again, someone can win on a competition and not be remembered in quote unquote b-boy history later down the line, where someone that is just consistent can be remembered just off of one round. Yeah. You've gone on record to say that.
Yeah.
Obviously that is important when going into a competition mode, right? Not necessarily I'm going in here to take out said crew or said b-boy. It's making sure, like you said, whatever move you're doing, you execute it fully so you can be remembered. Because again, yeah, we can talk so and so won a competition, but we're gonna remember other b-boy that just kind of killed that.
Had a moment. He created a moment. I got that from Mr. Wiggles. Mr. Wiggles is the first guy that said that, and I remembered. I was like, that's true, because rewind 20 years ago, right, when there was only 5 competitions in the world. And there was 30 crews in the world, and this is just 1996, right? Of course I could keep secret and I could win and I'm gonna be featured. But at this point, when I can't even pay attention the next 30 seconds, I don't like, there's certain like events that, and there's like 3 events a weekend and they're all being covered. How am I going to remember? I'm only going to remember a clip. I won't even remember like who won. I just remember like that round I saw on Instagram or TikTok was crazy. You know what I mean? So, and this is the thing is about guys that are a little bit under me, guys that are around 40. They grew up in the competition scene, and when there was only 5 battles, they were like, yeah, that's what it is. I'm like, yeah, but it's not that no more. And they're like, trick social media and this and that. I predicted a lot of stuff like 5 years ago, just observing social media. I predicted a b-boy coming from social media and then making a name in the competition circuit. And they're like, man, this is like, that's, you know, skills over hype. I go, yeah, but there's 1 million practitioners in the world now. There's 1 million across the world. Actually, there's probably more in China, with China in it, right? Like, so how are you going to stand out? And then you're just like, well, that's cheating. I go, okay, listen to this story. Check this out. So if we're in the 70s in the South Bronx, and, you know, I go to the Hevelo where Cool Herc is spinning, and then, like, I see a guy with an afro with a red shirt, and then he spins on his head, and I've never seen that in my life. And then they're like, I was like, then I go to my boys, yo, there's this guy, he had a kind of afro with a red shirt, and you know what? He spun on his head. Can you believe that shit? We got to go. Who is it? I don't know. It's a guy with an afro. I don't know. But this is the thing in the late 70s. They put their name on the shirt and their crew name on the back. What do you think social media is? That's marketing. That's why it's like, you know, it's you know, we've almost went back to that time, but instead of the shirt on our name, it's your IG account, it's your TikTok account.
Yeah.
That's the only difference. You know what I mean? It's almost like, again, because of social media, we can eliminate doing competitions. Because if we have a bigger following than a Red Bull BC would, like Red Bull is only like Red Bull on YouTube is only about 400K versus a stance with some 1 million. But if I could do that on my own, it's like the whole independent rap thing.
Yeah.
Too Short did it. E40 did it before they got signed. Like, I'm just copying that. I'm just copying, you know, Mr. Journeyman, they did it. Like, they all did it before getting signed. So I'm just copying that train of thought, which is hip hop, which these kids don't understand because they're not hip hop. If they understood that history of being independent, then they wouldn't have to rely on a Red Bull BC1. They wouldn't have to rely on, yeah, and there's no diss to that because I love, those are my friends, but we have the power to do it now, actually. You know what I mean?
Right. But how do you explain, I mean, you're clearly a big historian with this stuff, and so
yeah.
How do you share that with others? Is, you know, I mean, you teach, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, because I think that's an important part of it, as far as, you know, all the shit you're sharing, like the origin of the word cipher. Like, you know, people, kids that, you know, they watch YouTube videos, learn how to do some moves, and it's like, yeah, and they don't know any of the history or anything like that. So, do you make it a point to try to share that, you know, like, you know, as you're traveling, doing things like that, the history of the whole shit?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, and that's the thing. And again, if I was just the old guy at the jam going, you kids don't know what's up, blah, 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 they're just going to be like, whatever. But the fact that I'll get to the finals and I'm way older than them, they're like, wait, what's going on? It's not just your training. Then the dialogue opens up. Then I give them the history. Then they're like, oh, snap, I didn't know that. But that's the whole thing. I feel like if more OGs thought like that, like you have to, in my opinion, you know, like I talk a lot about like metaphysical stuff and self-help stuff because that's where I take my examples. Like this guy, Simon Sinek, he says, you know, true leaders eat last. You know what I mean? True leaders eat last. And it's almost like the Braveheart thing. Like, you know, when you watch Braveheart, Mel Gibson's not in the back of the line. He's in the front of the line. And that's what actually in the 90s, that's what gave Ken Swift the juice. It wasn't Ken Swift. Like Ken Swift in the 80s was like, oh, he's cool. Everyone knew Crazy Legs. what made Ken Swift in the 90s is because he was still frontline. And all of us went, this guy's still getting down, still getting it.
Yeah.
So that made us go, okay, he's the truth. So I just took those models. Like, I can't stop if I have something to say. Because for B-boys, we don't talk a lot. We look at things. That's why my podcast is not successful for B-boys. They're successful for hip-hop heads. Because they just want to watch the 15 seconds, you know what I mean? Because we're more attracted to movement. We're visceral versus cerebral. So my whole thing is like, check me out. I'm visceral. I'm doing all this stuff. Okay, now listen to me. Like, that's just my strategy. You know what I'm saying?
Word.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did I answer my question? Did I answer your question? I tend to be long-winded. Sorry about that, guys.
It's good. I mean, you're actually, I can speak for both of this. You're covering like a lot of the stuff that we have. Like,
Yeah. So yeah. So I want to go back because I mean, there's, like I told you, I'm like, we only do this for an hour, but I mean, I can pick your brain for hours, man.
Keep going, man. Let's keep going.
So here's what we want to touch on, because I think it's very important. And we both were like, we have to ask him this because, and really, it really came from Tamal carrying culture. You know, with what we've been dealing with, and again, by default, it's always rap music, but with what we've been dealing with, losing people in the hip hop community. We just lost Static from Air Force Crew, right?
Yeah. Rest in peace, man.
You know, we lost Dave De La Soul. We just lost a bunch of people, right?
Yeah.
And it's always just like, oh man, you know, they passed away. But we never get into the health part of it, the mental health part of it. So, you know, we were both like, we have to ask you what you do, because that's what made me gravitate towards you in terms of, you know, like, you're not only with all due respect, not only are you of age where B-boys aren't really doing it. I know you said as a B-boy 56 years old, I'm like, so I'm blown away by it. But again, you said 18, yeah, okay, I'm a B-boy. Normally a B-boy would then turn into a DJ, a rapper, or just leave hip hop alone, right? So you don't normally see this. Touch on the spiritual, the physical fitness that you do to get you where you're at right now in terms of B-boy and staying fit.
I like this question because no one ever asks me this question.
I have to talk about it.
No one asks me this question. They're just like, yo, you do it. Like, here's the thing.
To cover, like the main thing we wanted to cover before.
Absolutely.
Here's the thing, man. One, so like, honestly, so you said, Kerry, you said you were freestyle. I started out with freestyle hip hop dance. I'm a big mop top. Like, I started with that. So I started with that when I was like 16.
Wow. So I went the other way. So I started B-boying, New York City Breakers, and then transition to like mop top, Misfits.
Yeah, I was the other way. I started with Housing Authority, which was the West Coast version of Mop Top. Those were the guys there. Richmond and Tony, they're Samoan brothers. I lived in the same like city as them, and then it was me and my brother. I was first hand with those guys.
Word.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm first hand with those guys. And then like as I got into martial arts around '94, and then like the scene started to go south. It started to go to LA, and that's when Caesar picked up Radiotron and stuff like that. And then around like 95, 96, I saw tapes of Flowmaster and Ken Swift, and I said, that looks like dancing. Because in the West Coast, there's a lot of like Filipino kids doing power moves, right? They're doing Flare 90 and So they didn't really talk to me in the like 90, 91, 92, 93. I was dancing, but I wasn't breaking. So when I started breaking around 96, 97, I was already considered old. I was like 22, 21 at that point. So I was already on a like, look at this old guy trying to break. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But I was just like, I loved it. I love the challenge of it. And that's just me. I'm hard-headed. I was just, once I saw the dance, you know, because, you know, we weren't used to like the top rock and the footwork. We're used to power move kids. You know what I'm saying? So when I first saw those tapes, I said, yo, that looks like dancing. I can get with that. And I was getting, you know, I did martial arts. So I was like, oh, I can handstand now. You know what I mean? It's harder. But I was like, maybe I can do some of this stuff, you know? So that was the first challenge. To get to everything else, because I came from a deficit, because I came when I was older, because I was considered an underdog, and then success didn't happen for me right away. Success for me, traveling worldwide and then being known in the scene, it happened when I was 33. So I was already kind of late, but it was almost like it humbled me, because when I got humbled, that ego didn't get in the way. You know, I just was hungry for the knowledge, and that made me dig even deeper for like, well, what's this history? Wait, who did this? What, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't say this a lot, but you know, I used to be in Rock Force crew, and we were the last American crew to win a Battle of the Year. I have a Battle of the Year championship under my belt, but yet no one knows it. I don't talk about it.
Yeah,
that was 1998, but I was there when that happened. So, and I wasn't the it dude. You know what I mean? It was Gerald, Vietnam, and you know, these guys, and Jeff. They were I was like the guy. I was kind of like the older guy that kind of sucked. But you know what I mean? But it humbled me, and it made me go, okay, I can't think with my ego. So that was the first step. And then when the success came later on at 30, I was like, oh, I get it. It was about patience. It was about loving this. Yeah. And that was my connection to the spiritual part, because back then, when you're young, you just care about winning. You just care about winning. And then like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to win, and, you know, and do what the judges like so I can win. Right. Versus where it's like, well, I was like, no one was giving me any props anyway. So I did the research, and then I came from a spiritual side of it. Like, well, I want to do what I want to do. I want to do what speaks to me, which was almost, now it's possible. We're talking 20 years ago, that wasn't possible. You had to win. That was the only way you were going to get known. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, to get on a video VHS, to get they sell it behind the post office or Mr. Rags or something. You know what I mean? Like, like that was the only, you know what I mean? That was the only way. And then, so that made me question a lot of things. So as I questioned things, I got into like, what is this really about? What is this, you know? And I was a hip hop head anyway. Like before, like right before I made the B-boy thing, right? When I started out as a freestyle hip hop dancer. Then around like 94, 95, I did graph. I wasn't good, but I was like doing throw-ups all over the city. And then like, you know, I did rap. I don't like to talk about that too much, but I did do that. And then here's my D-Style story. I used to go to D-Style's house and be like, let me go on. I'll be like, he'd be there like annoyed by me. And then D's watching right now. He'd be annoyed by me because I'd just be at the turntable just trying to scratch. You know what I mean? I was like a hip hop head, literally did everything. But why I chose beat breaking? Because it was the hardest thing for me to do. Like I kind of got fairly good at everything fast. But breaking was the only thing that was like, this shit's hard. I can't, like, to do a windmill sucks. Like, I got to do this again. This shit hurts. And I would just be stubborn about it. So, and that's just maybe my personality. I'm just hard-headed. So that's why I stuck to it too. And from that hard-headedness, from those trials and tribulations, I start to find self. Then I start to understand, like the 5% Nation. I start to understand, NOI, and I understand just other things. The original term is woke. Like I was trying to be awake, you know what I mean? And then connect that to my dance and show that through my dance. You know what I'm saying? And that, to me, that was like being a hip hop head. Like, I was part of the Alafia chapter of Zulu Nation out here in San Francisco. You know what I mean? Like I was, I was like under, like, and then like I had my own chapter at one point. Like me and my brother had our own chapter in Daly City. And Shortcut was a part of our Zulu chapter, which was kind of cool too. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I don't talk about this stuff. I just dance, right? But, this is the opportunity. Like, I'm a hip hop head.
Because it needs to be talked about, right? Whether it's published or whatever, it just needs to get out there because, again, it's the younger people that, they do need guidance. I don't want to maybe say it like that, but, what torch is being passed down to them.
Right.
So, just speak on it, please. That's amazing.
There's this knowledge out there, and and it's, I just want to share it and that's why it's cool. Like, I started a show called the Hip Hop Dark Web with my boys, Dr. Derek, Pluto, and Adisa, the Bishop. And we're just, we're digging in the weeds because right now, what you guys are saying, everyone's talking about rap. And we know about rap. It's in our face, especially it's the 50th anniversary. It's like the 50th anniversary. So of course, you know, everyone's like trying to like, and then the Hip Hop Museum with Paradise Gray is coming out. So everyone has these questions that like, you know, the underground hip hop has always been there and did the research. You know what I mean? And now that there's social media, that line is kind of blurred. I mean, you know, unless you believe in shadow banning and stuff like that, I don't know if that's true or not, but now we're on an even playing field where the independent can be, you know, mainstream, right?
Yeah.
You know, quote unquote mainstream, right? Like,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I that's my job. Like, I feel like that's my job to kind of like, you know, not just, you know, talk about, but show about it. I show and tell. I'll do both. And, you know, and then push my ego to the side because I'm happy for the success that happened late in my life. You know what I mean? And I keep telling people that, like, maybe it's not your time right now. Don't give up. You know what I mean? Because, like, now it's like we're creating, like, right now, breaking, we're creating the industry. Like, it's already an industry, but I feel like, you know, next year in Paris, you know, a year and a half, actually almost a year from now, we might get that 900 moment. Then what's going to happen? Right? Breaking will have that Tony Hawk 900 moment. So am I going to sit there and complain, or am I going to position myself when the wave comes? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it's dope that you really touched on the other aspects of hip hop, and it goes back to all the same age to back where, you know, we all had a hand style back in the day, even if we didn't write. We all. Everybody dabbled in something. Everybody did it. And it wasn't like, you know, we talk about, you know, Chuck and I talk about it all the time. So it's just nice to hear, like, you know, like, yeah, like we come from an era where like you just did it. Like we just did everything, and it wasn't the individual lanes that it is today. How do you think we can maybe? Is there a way that we can get that back? Do you think? Like kind of. Unifying the elements with the way
that's gonna be hard in my opinion, but there could be ways, because right now there's like such thing as breaking schools. This is the first time I judged an event last month in San Diego called Up and Comer, and they had invites. They invited some competitors, and at least two, and they were all like about 19 years old. And they all come from breaking schools at this point. Like, oh, I was in this breaking school. Like, I was like, damn, there's such thing as that now. It's not even from crews. It's from like a breaking school.
Like actual school?
Yeah, like a breaking school. As it was like, you know, I go, you know, this is the first time this has ever really happened, right? Like, there's no such thing as that. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, there's certain schools that just teach the moves. And there's certain schools, like, I got to give a shout out to Hawaii again. Keiki Breaks, they really try to push the whole like education of all the elements of hip hop. Giving a shout out to my man Hijack and B-Boy Art, and they're under me. They used to be my neighbors, and like I would just be like, hey, you guys are whack. You know why? like, and they spread that, and so these kids are coming up. You know, these Hawaii kids are coming up trying to experience the whole hip hop. Like he'll show them how to DJ. He'll show them like, hey, there's, you know, and and then vice versa. These kids that I've mentored, and they'll be like, you heard that JID? I was like, no. So they'll turn me on to stuff. I'm feeling this. You know, I'm feeling this. So we had this exchange.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think that would be the answer is mentorship. But then at the same time, the mentor has to know kind of all the elements too, that's where it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but one of the schools, so the concentrated of breaking schools is Las Vegas. There's 3 breaking schools out. Actually, now there's 4. There's Zoo Logic from Knucklehead Zoo. There is District with Full Force. There is Breaking Alchemy, which is Battleborn. And then my boy, Jay Soul, he does BTR Breaking. One kid from Zoo Logic, this kid named Capital, shout out to Capital. He was like, what happened in B-Boy Summit 99 when all the cops came, you know? And I was like, oh, I was surprised he asked that question. Wow. The kid's 19. I'm like, oh. And then he was like, was it just because you were breaking? I was like, no, it was a guy from Germany who was like, you know, it was in Venice, so he thought it was a legal wall. So when the cops saw that, they wrapped him up, and then all the b-boys and everyone there started the riot, quote unquote riot. And he was like, "Oh, I didn't know that." I was like, "Well, you know what? I'm happy that you even asked about that. You didn't ask like, how do you do this move?" He was just like, "What happened?" I was like, "All right, young man, I see you." You know what I mean? Like you asked that question.
Even people from, okay, so, and then I don't know if you know, so I'm from Southern California, so Venice
Word.
is just, you know,
Oh, okay, word. Yeah.
Yeah. But even b-boys here won't just automatically know that, right? So for somebody, a younger kid to come out and be like, b-boy Summit '99, that's amazing.
Yeah, I was amazed. I was amazed. I was like, "All right, you're doing your homework. Good for you." That's what. And I was telling Igor Bonita, she's the head coach at Breaking for Gold right now. She's kind of a head of the team, the USA team. They're putting the USA team together. And she's like, "What do you think they're missing?" I go, "Honestly, they're not hip hop heads. If they were, that's the secret sauce that they don't understand. And they don't understand everywhere else in the world is trying to get the secret sauce. But, you know," and she was like, "You're right." And I was like, "I know I'm right." I know I'm right. But it's like, how do you teach that? I go, "Oh, that's a different story. That's a different story, you know." And like, they don't know the history because a lot of them are, none of them, like only El Nino, who's from Floor Lords, understands the history. And I think he's in the Breaking for Gold team. And so this is what I'm saying, like, you know, like, it's hard because it's like, you don't know how many times I'm like, "I told you." You know what I mean? We're talking world champions. I'm like, "I told you." Like, but they'll sit there and listen because, again, I'm active. They'll listen because I'm active. If I was just an OG head, an old head, old head, just that would be so dope if you did this. They'd be like, "Yeah, whatever." But then when they see me actually do it, they're like, "Oh, okay." They're like, "Oh, okay. I see what, you know, why it's different from how I do it."
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Let's I want to talk about this. And I mean, I know where you're going to go with it, but just talking about teaching, because that's super important, right? I can say, you know, I've been a hip hop head since, you know, '86 or whatever it is.
Word.
And I can say, yo, I need to rent out this, you know, community center because I'm going to teach b-boy.
Right.
And now I'm teaching, you know, let's say 12 kids. Now my information or maybe misinformation is now given to 12 kids. Those 12 kids give it to 24, so on and so forth.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So in that sense, with the internet at our fingertips, you have people from UK, China, Africa, Mexico, Honduras can just go online and be like, "I don't need oral tradition, oral history. I can see. I'll teach myself how to do the windmill. I'll teach myself this and this."
It exists.
And now you got almost all power moves on a competition or in a jam, in a cipher. Speak on how important it is not only to have the attitude or that style, but the the footwork. How important that is to the ring.
It's very important. It's like, you know, as Ken Swift, you know, there's a debate amongst a lot of people about like what breaking is and b-boy, and the first b-boys, shout out to Trixie and Sasa from the Hebelo, you know, coined the term b-boy from Cool Herc, when it was just more of a you know, a stand-up dance. And Ken Swift said it like the epitome, like the essence of breaking is footwork, and I agree with him. You know what I mean? He would say you're not a b-boy without it. You would have to at least have something, right? Because that's the only thing that stands out that's codified in right now at this point. Footwork is, now we can codify it, right? Like, you know, every culture has had a head spin, like some type of head spin, some type of, well, windmill's original, air flare's original. Those are the gifts that were specifically created from breaking. But there's remnants of the precursors that created the windmill and the air flare, right? I think a lot of kids right now, they can do it. Like a lot of your champions right now can do it. Do they love it though? That's a different story. They could do it. They have good form. They understand what it is, but do they love it? You know, this is different from even like, let's say even 20 years ago when people like people that did power moves had shitty footwork. No, at this point, everyone has decent footwork, but do they love it? And the answer is, honestly, I would say at least 60% don't care about it. 40% maybe love it, right? The cypher b-boys tend to love it more than, again, the vert and the street skaters. They tend to like it. Why? Because there's more character in it. You know, there's a difference between, and this is, you know, everyone, it's funny because there is this divide, right? Like a lot of the cypher guys talk shit about the guys who always win, which is like what I consider the vert guys, right? But yet, if I stick you in the middle of an arena with 20,000 people, let's see how your footwork does.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, right? Yet, I take that same power move b-boy and I put him in this tight circle like this. Let's see what you can do in a tight circle like this.
Right.
They can't do much.
Facts.
So my whole thing is learn both. Like right now, I'm 47. I never had turtles. I just finally unlocked turtles. And I'm like, dude, I should have learned this 30 years ago. What was I doing with my life? Because I was like, I'm too good for this move. But I'm 47. I'm learning turtles. Why not? And I'm like, dude, these transitions I'm learning from this damn move, I messed up. I could have had this like 20 years ago and had more moves and unlock different things. So it's not to diss power moves. It's just the cultural, honestly, in my opinion, the cultural aspect of hip hop is closer to the footwork. Because again, that's what Ken Swift said. That's like what the definition of breaking. But to understand how that, my whole thing is to understand what happened in 74, 75, 76, and what was the vibe. Then copy the vibe, and then go from there. Like, you know, then you go from, you know, 77, 78, 79, and then what the crews were there and how they developed these moves. That opens my imagination actually to create, right? And then at the same time, it's funny because a lot of these kids talk about biting, yet they don't know that someone did this back in '93 because they didn't do the research and they thought they were being original. So you're right. Everyone can learn the basics online. You can actually learn all the basics. Your basic top rock, your basic footwork, your windmill, your power moves, all that. But the problem is they don't have someone curating the timeline and developing your style. The music, what music goes to this song, or what moves goes to this song. What was the vibe of this song? You know, what was the vibe of that song? You know, so that's where elders like myself and other elders, they have to kind of communicate this. And the only way you can communicate is doing it still. That's the only problem. And the problem is a lot of them don't want to lose what they've done. But wouldn't it be wild if Ken Swift just joined the competition? We would be like, yo, like we would be to that guy's feet. Like, this guy's doing it. He's not talking, he's just doing it. Hell yeah. But the problem is a lot of guys, even from my generation, are afraid to lose. I'm like, I don't care about losing. I'm out there. I'm on these streets, like losing, whatever. Again, if I don't rely on the win and I could create my own media empire, why do I need that? I'm just doing it for fun. I'm actually, that's what I tell people, like I join competitions to post on Instagram. I don't care about winning. Like I just care about like putting my stuff out there. It sounds like kind of clout chases, but no, it's like proving that like you could still do it.
Well,
you know what I mean? You could still do it.
What's been the most rewarding thing for you that you've gotten from b-boy? I mean, like you teach, you travel, you know, and what's been the biggest thing that you've gotten out of it?
There's a lot of things, man. There's a lot of things. But honestly, so there's two things. I would say that teaching is like passing a certain style and seeing kids like flip it and like be successful with it. And I was like, yeah, I was a part of that. You know what I'm saying? I was a part of that. I was a part of the development. And I was right. You know what I mean? It's like that proved it. You know what I mean? That's like, yeah, in your face. But the other thing is I created a move I created a footwork step that I know has gotten passed around. Like that I contributed to the art. You know what I'm saying? Like I contributed to it. And that's when I'm like, okay, I left something in this culture versus just, you know, winning something. I actually You know what I mean? And then people could feed off of that. And I think that's like, you know, it's a footwork move called the full eclipse. Some kids use it, and to me, that's like, okay, at least I have that. You know what I mean? I gave to the culture. You know what I mean? And that's beyond the, like, dude, I have like a lot of losses, but I got a lot of wins too that I don't even talk about. I got a lot of trophies, I got a lot of whatever, but I'm like, to me, these are the things that I love. Like when I see people succeed, I'm like, hell yeah. You know what I mean? Hell yeah.
No, it's dope.
So okay, so now we're talking now, right?
Okay.
I know you say, you know, you don't care if you lose. Your thing is just, yeah. So I'm going to give you a generic question. I'm sure you've been asked this thousands of times. What do you like better, competition or a jam?
I gotta say, I got like a jam. It just feels more free. Like, it's just more free because, okay, when I join a competition, yo, that's a month and a half of prep for me. That's a month and a half running those stairs and doing burpee, swipe, burpee, and all this stuff that I hate. Like, I'll do it because I want to be sharp, especially at my age. Like, I have to do it. I can't just dance. I'd rather be at a jam. Like, I was at Arizona this past weekend. I was at the Floristas Jam. And that was the first event that I actually got down. And there was no judges showcase. It was just, I like this, you know, the right people, right move, right music. I was just getting down. I was like, oh, I miss this. Because I'm so, when I get into competition mode, and I have another, my boy just asked me, he's like, what do you want to create? I was like, when you compete, bro, that part of the mind, you have to be an athlete, man. Like, I'm sorry. To compete, you have to be, like, my whole thing is like, we train like the UFC. Like, there's no time to be creative. That's taking up too much, you know, bandwidth. That's why I was like, I hate, you know, I like to compete because I like to be in front of all those people. But if you gave me the choice just to be loose and just feel it, and I like this song, or I don't want to dance right now, like, I'd rather have that. Like, to be honest, like, you know, right? And when in a competition, it's like this, you know, I'm like the Terminator. I just go in and just, songs whack, doesn't matter, kill you, right? I'm tired, kill you. Like, that's my attitude in a competition, right? Doesn't matter, I have no feelings, kill you. Which is, you know, opposite, but again, it's because it's a competition. It's not necessarily the art. You know, I'm playing the game. You know what I'm saying? I'm playing the game.
That's crazy. No, it's just crazy. I'm thinking that's just Sharon. That's why I don't fuck with competition.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
it's not everyone's cup of tea.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Crazy. That's like, for me as a dancer, if I don't like the music, I cannot dance.
Yeah.
I have to sit down, and people be like, "You dance?" I'm like, leave me the fuck alone. You know what I mean?
Spin on your head. Come on, you know you can do it. Right. Like, what am I, your monkey? Like,
the request.
Yeah, the request. Come on, sample. Come on. You're a b-boy, right? I'm like, yeah, it's my day off today.
If I'm not feeling it, I just rock, man. You know, it's hard. So I always gravitated more towards this, you know, this like parties and stuff like that and jams. Yeah. So it's interesting. But I do appreciate you sharing the gear switching, because that's
yeah.
And I that are in like popping shits and stuff, popping jams and competitions, and when we pop in ciphers and stuff, we're just getting loose. And then when I see them like in competitions, they're just like,
it's different. It's different.
Guns ablazing. You know, like I can tell them. So.
Yeah, it's different. You gotta, you know, it's a show. It's a show. Right. You know what I mean? It's different than a jam session, right? Like, basically what we're talking about, what we came up on, what a cipher is a jam session. You're feeding off the next guy. This record comes on. Maybe you do a little indirect, you know, like, you know, a little jab here. If it's not, you're not full out battling. It's kind of like, oh, I got something like that. Yeah. And then you're kind of feeding this thing, and then maybe some guy comes and is like, you, and like, all right, let's go. Right? Like, but again, you know, that's a lot like, and I have the comparisons to UFC because, you know, the first UFC was that. Right. Like, just go, no weight class, no nothing, just go. No rules, no nothing, just go.
I was like,
now, yeah, but now it's like it's just when you organize it, it's a little bit easier for people to understand the outside crowd, and that's what we're talking about now. And again, same thing. You know, if you're a street skater guy and then you're a vert guy, there's room for all of us. It's just we have to learn how to market this aspect as well. You know what I mean? And this could be done. I mean, I was telling this to a kid when I was in Arizona. I was like, yeah, man. It's like, oh, I never thought that we were like street skaters. Like, dude, yeah, most of the kids that, you know, when they're breaking and they have a certain fashion, it's usually from a B-boy that's not necessarily winning a BC1. It's a guy that just has a lot of style. He looks cool. And it's like, if we could just, I go, the ultimate thing is, and this is an idea, and if you guys bite, oh well, just know where you got it from. Like, if there was a way to film a cypher with good lighting where the dancers didn't know that they were getting filmed, that's the money right there. If we can attempt that, if so, we could do that somehow. Because then, you know, when you put the camera down, then everyone, you know, plays the role.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But street skaters, they're just skating, and they just happen to catch a moment. But they're not really caring about the camera. They're caring about that grind or that trick or whatever. So if we could film it like that, you know, where they're not even aware, we're going to get some gold. And then it's good lighting, and you can market that part. Dude, there you go. And then Nike or whatever, you're wearing Nike, whatever, you know, whatever brand. All right, cool. You don't have to join a competition. You already got that, you know, you already got cool points, you know what I mean? You're gonna have kids more gravitate to that because not everyone could like triple backflip. like you know what I mean?
That's what's up. We only got a few more minutes, but I got a quick question. Yeah,
yes,
I got a quick question to ask you. Knuckle Neck, because I'm familiar with Mikey Disco.
Hell yeah. He was in my first crew.
Okay, so how'd you link up? How'd that come about?
He went to Salesians High School. We were looking for dancers, and he joined the crew. So I told you I was a freestyle dancer first. I was a hip hop freestyle dancer first, and this was in the East Bay. And you know, he got in the crew, then got kicked out of the crew. And you know, and I've been knowing him since 1991.
Oh wow!
So, yeah. So we all started the same. He's like one of the guys that, you know, like he's that from that time. You know what I mean? Like me and him start, and then so Knuckle Neck was DJ Cubert's dancers. There was a crew. You know, DJ Cubert was FM20. It was Cubert, Mixmaster Mike Apollo. They were the DJs of Nim and I think H2O. And you know, the dancers were the Knuckle Neck tribe. So they were the first ones that were to kind of like be the West Coast Rocksteady. So when Legs got Cubert into Rocksteady DJs, he was like, yo, check out these dancers, Knuckle Neck tribe. They became the West Coast Rocksteady. And then Zulu Gremlin was the head of West Coast Rocksteady. And then eventually like Easy Rock joined and all that type of stuff. But the first West Coast crew was Knuckle Neck tribe. And those are guys that we looked up to. You know what I'm saying? Like they were the elders that were kind of like, oh, they're bringing breaking back. They were kind of like more freestyle hip hop dancers, but they'll throw in a windmill, but with style. Like, oh shoot, you know what I mean? So we saw that. We were just like, okay, that's it. You know what I mean? So yeah, me and Mikey's from that era, man. Like,
I respect to Knuckle Neck. I peeped the videos a while back on YouTube. I met him out in Oakland.
Oh,
yeah, that was
word.
Yeah. So now I didn't know about the. I had seen like, aren't there some house members in Knuckle Neck too?
There's a few that can house dance. Yeah.
I thought I saw, but anyway, no, I've seen a bunch of dope shit online with Bruto. Now it's a dope squad, man. So I just was curious about that.
Yeah, man. We're just carrying tradition. You know what I'm saying? Like we're not as active, but you know, it's just the name of just like giving respect. You know what I mean? Like these are the guys that like I looked up to. You know what I mean? So they if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
You know?
Word.
So,
Yeah. So, what do we got? 4 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh shit! I love like that.
Bro, I'm telling you, you know, I can sit here and I mean, we can all sit here. Hours.
Yeah. I want you guys on my show. I want you guys on the hip hop dark web.
Let's go.
No doubt.
Yeah, because that's where we freaking argue. Not argue, but we just bring up mad shit. Like,
no, let's go because even though we do, like I said, we do the elements, but it's crazy, and hopefully you can tune in. You know, it's every Wednesday.
Yeah,
you can tune
in. I've watched a few episodes.
The elements, right? We talk about rap, talk about the MC, talk about the b-boy. You know, and I personally can't say I'm as knowledgeable as you, right? but I've done my thing, right?
Right.
Been in
For sure.
since '86. So, in the last couple minutes here,
Mhm.
if you were to give an up and coming B-boy, B-girl just important information or opening of a pathway,
Mhm.
what would you tell them?
Depends on their intention. I first ask them that. What do you want from this? You know, do you want to be a world champion? Do you want to want to just dance? And then we go from there. But if I were to give any generic generic advice, I say make sure you love this. Make sure you love this. Do it for don't do it for just the outside validation, because that's gonna go away, right? And that's the main thing. You gotta love this. Like I said, like when I'm training by myself. I barely even go to open session. I'm by myself. I'm just trying to do turtles. You know what I mean? Like, and that's it. That's the love. At 47, like what, there's no crowd. There's no, I'm just into the moves. I'm like a little kid again. Can I get this variation of this windmill, or I just created this thing? And no one's there. It's just me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then maybe I'll post it, but I'm just happy that I got it. Like, oh shoot! So that means I've loved it. You know what I mean? I just love it. I just can't help not to move, and when music comes on or even an idea comes into my head, I'll just do it.
Do you find that more effective of training or doing this by yourself?
For me, not everyone's the same.
Right.
For me, I would train with people. I never got good. When COVID happened, I leveled up. I was like, oh, there's something here. There's something here. There's something here. How come it took me 5 years to get this move, but by myself it took me like 6 months or 3 months? So it's just for me. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Damn. Maybe it's because of like age or something, like maybe that true energy is much when you're sharp. You're really sharpening the sport now. Maybe before it's different, but maybe now you're zeroing in. Maybe it's more along that line.
Feels less of a show when I'm at session. It feels like a show because everyone's watching. What is it gonna do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like a performance. It's still, I guess, like, so am I really invading this move and coming from all angles and really understanding it, or am I doing a show? And that's why I know it's for me. That's why I can't say, but I say it's required, just not all the time. If I want to develop, it's by myself. But then I have to battle test it. I have to have floor time. I can't just by myself and then be nervous and then I can't do it and then go back to my old shit. Like I gotta be in. It's like being like a stand-up comedian. You test it out in small circles and see it works. Then you go to the next bigger venue when you keep certain jokes, and then you just kind of flow. So it's the same thing. Right?
That's a good perspective, though.
Yeah, I relate a lot of stuff. I mirror a lot of stuff with breaking. You know what I mean? And then again, that's why to be a hip hop head, you can mirror what DJs does this, so I'll do this. Graffiti writer does this, I'll do this. MCs flip verses like this, I'm gonna do this.
Right.
There's very universal things there, and there's very things you could like learn from every element. Doze One says that too. So it's like makes it. And I was like, that's why I was like, kids, you better learn this stuff because
right.
if I was 13, you guys are all dead. Like I'd be smoking all you guys.
Yeah. No, love your attitude about it though, man, because more people are our age should have that attitude. Like, you get better when you get older. Like, mental, everything. You should be like on it now. Like you've been through the bullshit, so like I see you shining. You know what I'm saying? So I'm happy to like hear something. I just really inspiring words as far as you loving it. Like gotta move, yo.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey, real quick before we get you being out in the Bay, do you ever go to High Road Day?
Yeah, I've been there a few times. I performed there
a
few times with Mikey. Yeah, with Mikey. Yeah.
Oh, dope. Yeah. That's family out there. So we'll be out there this year.
Oh, word.
So,
yeah. Let me know. I mean, because I might be. There's an event in Hawaii at the same time. So if I don't go do that, then I'll go to High Road Day.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, man.
So before we kill it, I know you were saying your podcast and all that. Tell everybody or tell us in case we don't know. What you got going on, podcast shows, what you got going on?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm going to plug my event. It's coming up in May 20th, the FloorGangz anniversary. out here in San Francisco, May 20th. If you want to snap this and then scan the QR code, it has all the information on there. You know, the Profo One channel on YouTube, we have the trades, Break Battle Royale, and the new show is Hip Hop Dark Web, where we talk about hip hop and we talk about just a bunch of journalists and historians doing research and just going off on that information.
All right.
You know what I mean?
Nerding out.
Shit.
Yeah. I'll let you guys know. I got you guys IG, so like, I think the next one I want you guys on. So it'll be like Adisa Benjoko, my man Pluto, Dr. Derek Cologne, myself, and then I'll have you guys too. And we'll just throw subjects out.
That'd be dope.
All day.
You know what I mean?
We
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, man. I'll let you know.
Cool,
It'll be
man.
fun.
Hey, man, I humbly appreciate you coming on and talking to us. Mad respect, because just like Mo said, like, there's just this passion that is just coming out at you when you're talking about this, and it's needed, especially with the b-boy shit, the graph shit. I mean, again, we say hip hop, and by default, people it's the genre of music, and the elements are getting pushed aside. And it's not the first time in hip hop history, but we got to get back to it. So again, I appreciate you coming on and talking to us.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Yeah,
it's been fun.
We appreciate it, man.
Yes.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Sir. All right. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, too.
Yeah, salute to everybody joining on the show. We'll stay linked up.
All right.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.